Special welcome to another exciting podcast where we discuss everything technology and leadership development. I am excited to be joined by Alex, all the way from the United States. Alex, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone.
I am very intrigued by just your career path and your career journey. You are a data science manager, and I took time just to go through your profile, a very impressive profile you have. And I also enjoyed the recommendations from people that have worked with you. Well done to that,
Thank you.
Alex.
Thank you.
So let's start the conversation by just having you introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself and the career journey that you have walked to get to where you are today.
Sure. Um, Thanks for having me again, Sarah. I'm very glad to be joining you today. So my journey starts with really my interest in data. I am a big believer in what data could do, be it in solving health problems or business problems. There's a lot to be solved with data. And that's what took me to study quantitative methods in the Netherlands, also in the United States. I did studies in statistics and epidemiology. And then afterward, especially around 2014, 2015, the data science field was just exploding. And then I said, hey, with the skills I have, I think even if I'm doing data science, I think I can formally join the movement and really have something to contribute. And that's what took me to into data science. And I have since done data science in a variety of fields: healthcare, automotive, insurance, and now finance.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So this is quite a new field, Alex. Are you able to just sort of break it down for us? What does data science involve, especially in the workplace? What does it look like?
Yes. So that's a very good question. So one of the ways to look at data science is you have a business problem, and businesses and business leaders, practitioners ask the question, how can we solve this problem? One of the ways to solve that problem is let's let's pull more data on the problem. Of course, one business problem to another varies with the amount of in the amount of complexity, the amount of data available. But that's in short what it is. How can we use data to solve business problems? How can we use that data to use algorithms, analytics to solve business problems? Be it if you take in the financial industry, uh, before you underwrite a loan, you need to think about how much loan to provide and who's
Mm-hmm.
likely to default and who needs how much line are you going to provide. And data science provides a lot of insight for that decision. In the end, it's a data driven approach to solving broad business problems, to making decisions.
Beautiful, beautiful. So let's talk about how people get into the data science field. How can one, build a career in data science?
Yes. So I would look at it in a twofold approach. One is really attitude. I think people who are fascinated with data, who really want to get more data before they make decisions, those are really the people who will succeed in this area. Then beyond that, of course, uh, you also need to couple that with the technical skills, which is where a quantitative background will always help. I think it will be hard without a quantitative background to do data science. So the best thing about data science is once you have that data-driven mindset, you can come from different backgrounds. I've seen and worked with people from statistics background, machine learning, computer science, engineering, even civil engineering. So the best thing about data science is it is actually one of the fields where a lot of professionals with different backgrounds converge to solve a problem. So I think
Beautiful.
the easiest way one could go about it is take a formal training in the quantitative sciences.
Mhm. Mm, mm, mm.
And
That's
that's how
very,
I
very,
describe it. Thank you. Sorry.
yeah, no, that's no, that's fine. That's very, very insightful. Because it's also important for people to realize that you can get into these fields by pivoting from another career path, right? You
Yes,
could
that's
be
true.
on a path that you were trained on,
That's
but for
true.
as long as you've got interest, you can build on that career. But for the young ones, it's actually good to also know that quantitative sciences would be a way to also get started, right?
Yes, that's very true.
Mm, mm, mm. So, what are the key skill sets that one needs to be able to succeed in this field?
Yeah, I would say once you have the technical background, I'd say, especially in a business setting, beyond the technical background, I describe it as a three-part approach. One is obviously, like we mentioned earlier, the technical competence, quantitative studies. The other one is data understanding, really, especially when you want to practice analytics and data science, you really need to know the data. There are situations where people have mentioned making mistakes because they did not have a proper understanding of the data for that specific context in that specific business. So, really understanding the data ecosystem, the data context is very helpful. The other one is one of the key areas, especially as you grow in the data science profession and as you grow in seniority, a key skill one needs to have also is business engagement.
Mm,
Understanding the business, being able to engage and actually to sell your idea, to sell your solution. Because there are situations where a data scientist could build this sophisticated, amazing algorithm to solve a problem. But if business partners or your business colleagues don't understand what you did or how the solution you are providing could solve their problem, they may not use it. And you
mm.
may end up having invested so much energy that was not going to be used. So I think those are the three areas I would say one needs to have to succeed in data science.
Mm, 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 mm. Beautiful. There's a lot of talk around the data ecosystem. Do you just want to speak to what that concept is when people talk about data ecosystem?
Yes, so I think we can approach that answer from multiple angles. I like to start with a more simpler approach. Take a business. I think for a business, really to succeed in this day and age, you need to curate your data properly, make it available for analytics easier and faster, and build data ecosystems that tap into your business problem, your actual context. And then I think if you step outside of the business itself at a society level or industry level, there are, just as there are business specific data like your customer information, right? Or how you have been performing in the past. Then there's also external data sources. If you take in the financial industry, there are really a whole host of data sources, credit bureau information. Like there are businesses that collect credit underwritten in the United States, curate all that data, and that becomes part of your ecosystem. All you have to do is pay and pull it in. So that's how I think about ecosystem is what is the data, how's the data organized, and how's the data accessible, and how's the data governed. You also need to govern your data because we've heard all the crazy stories with data leakage and breaches that are out there in the world.
Beautiful, beautiful. This is such a wide and exciting topic because, as you said, really data is actually driving business at the moment, and I think going forward, it's going to be the big business driver. I would want us to talk about data governance. What does that involve when people are talking about data governance?
Yes, I think the place to start with data governance is really do no harm. Do no harm. You have the data, customers have entrusted you with the data, and we have a responsibility as a society, as practitioners, and as businesses to make sure we use the data in the most purposeful, in the most beneficial way for both the customer and the business and society in general. To me, data governance beyond that is the technical side is making sure the data is secured, making sure the data is curating is also important because you don't want to improperly curate and pull and expose one customer's information to another customer. The other one is uh, beyond securing, making it available. It's also upon us to actually use the data to benefit society. I think if you just put the data in a lockbox, it's not going to help anybody. So you find the right way and also respect the laws of the country where you are located. There are, for instance, in the United States, there's really strict governance around personally identifiable information. You cannot use gender, age, social security information to make business decisions or adverse action on customers. Those are really separate from what the customer is in terms of their other financial behavior or what other attributes you may have in other fields.
Mm, mm, mm. Very, very insightful. I would love us to dive into the relationship between data and artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is, a big buzzword. Well, not a buzzword anymore because, people are interacting with artificial intelligence on a daily basis now. It's becoming part and parcel of a way of life and everyday way of doing business. What is the relationship between data and artificial intelligence?
Well, I think they are part and parcel the same now because you cannot do one without the other. So I think maybe the other way around. You start with the data. Data is the foundation, really. Without the
Mm,
data,
mm,
I there's just no way to imagine artificial intelligence. So I think now uh, data is also again key with ever more data curation, ever more data being created. That's what's going to unlock the future of artificial intelligence. And the transformation that has happened, especially with ChatGPT and large language models, is in the past, data cleaning was very hard. Curating as well. I think when you have variety of information like the streaming we are doing now, this is data that goes somewhere, and text, just structured data, um, image, all of those are what's going to be foundational to artificial intelligence. And especially the future is brighter in the sense that in the past, working across text, image, or video was hard. In the world of large language models, that's becoming ever more easier. So I think data and artificial intelligence are really two sides of the same coin.
Mm, 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 mm. I would love us to break down this conversation by bringing in definitions. So, I've got a teaching background, Alex, and I love to break down information for everyday people so people can understand. Because, data science is actually a new word that has just, I never grew up with data science, for example. It's a new word that has come on the block. Do you want to just help us understand these concepts by defining what they are, what is data science, and what is artificial intelligence?
Sure. Uh, Data science, I would look at it as the science of using data and statistics and algorithms to solve business problems. Artificial intelligence is what you actually use to build models. So the way to think about artificial intelligence is the use of algorithmic methods or statistics to create predictions. A simple example is you use a customer's past paying behavior, credit information, you put that into an algorithm, and then you use that algorithm to predict their likelihood of default. So artificial intelligence is the actual implementation of the algorithm.
Beautiful and well explained. I love that you brought in that practical example that everyone can understand. So, what are some of the problems when it comes to data science? What are some of the problems you have tackled in the data science field?
Yes. A few examples I could share are that I've worked in healthcare, auto, and finance and insurance. So I've been lucky to tackle a few problems. Some of the problems I tackled is in the auto space. For instance, take a customer. You have a customer either that's purchasing the first time or that has already purchased, and you want to see what kind of vehicle are they gonna need next. Those are some of the problems I solved. For instance, for the first customer, your first purchaser, you need to identify, hey, I need to market to this person. So what you do is you gather information and you decide, one, are they likely to purchase? Two, what should I offer them? And that's also optimizable. What is the vehicle type? We also have what you call incentives here in the United States. When you go to purchase a car, you can get 400 off, 600 off, depending on what's available at the time. You also get that. That's also an optimizable problem. So in the end, you're helping your business drive revenue. And also, really, people don't see it that way as well. You're also increasing customer satisfaction. If, as a customer, I know what you would be interested in, and I straight out offer you that instead of showing you things that may not be so interesting and taking so much of your time, you'd also be interested to see, hey, yes, this was what I was looking for. Thank you for offering me this. So those are really some of the problems we solved. And in the financial credit card industry, which I'm currently working on, it's pretty straightforward. One of the key problems we solve is, hey, I have this customer. They have been with me. They have been using my card. Will they still be good? I give them the card because I think they are a good customer. They will not default, or at least I have a reasonable understanding of their default probability. But you also need to think about, like, on an ongoing basis, will this customer still be less risky, or what will their risk be? And if their risk changes, you need to take action. Usually, one of the things that happens is if the customer's risk continuously declines and they are continuously using their card, what we do is we give them more line actually. That way they can benefit from the card, and we also benefit when they use the card. So those are some of the problems I tackled.
Very exciting and practical issues. So then, in all this, are you building models that are informing you, these kind of decisions that you're making on a customer as a data scientist? Is that how it works?
Absolutely, absolutely. All the points I made around who is likely to purchase a vehicle, for instance, that is something you'd only know using an algorithm. I think people have done it in the past with guesstimates, but we know that's not a perfect situation. So models are applied at every stage of the process. That's really what data-driven approach is as well, is asking yourself, hey, I have this data. How can I use this data to solve this problem? Which is, how can I help my customer purchase a better car, a car that's to their satisfaction? Also, in the credit card business, default models are like one of the key critical inputs to making the decision. It will be very hard to imagine a situation where, especially in our day and age, where you make customer decisions to offer credit or increase or reduce line without the use of algorithm. So in short, yes, every stage of the process we leverage algorithms.
Beautiful, beautiful. Alex, we can't have this conversation without, the temptation of thinking about the bias that sneaks into these things, especially when you look at profiling clients, in terms of affordability and so on and so on. How do you ensure that the data that is being used is not biased? How do you deal with the issue of bias just in general?
I think that's a very good question. And I don't think we have the full answer to that, but there are also some tools that we are using currently. I think the easier one is, if you are making a credit decision, for instance, it has to be only based on the customer's ability and willingness to pay. What that means is you need to base your decision on actual data. And especially here in the US, that's actually a governed process and a legally enforced process. We do not use gender, we do not use age, and we do not use race and other protected characteristics, because we've had nightmare situations in the past with redlining, where Black people were really excluded from access to financial services, and really also the opportunity to build wealth. So I think society has learned a lot from that negative experience, and there's a lot of effort to make sure, even beyond the protected categories I mentioned, there may be some data points that encode for race or other protected characteristics. We also do our best to eliminate those. That way, we are focusing on the data that matters, which is, does this person has the financial capacity, willingness, and discipline to pay the loan, regardless of who they may be, what they may look like, or what their gender may be. So it's always something we have to continue to do our best. I do believe there are a really good number of safeguards out there, but we could still do more. We cannot afford to not focus on this.
So you're bringing very, very interesting conversation to the table. And I'm just thinking, as a lay person, how do you ensure that, you're just collecting data that do not allow you to be biased? So does it mean, when you're collecting data on me, you only collect data from me that does not bring in other elements that will be able to identify me as a Black woman, kind of thing. Is that how it works, from the customer facing?
That's actually a very good question. So practically, what happens is, one, when we collect data, we actually do not collect gender or sex or age. And even if it's collected in some situations, in the mortgage industry, for instance, it is put separate from the data that you will use to make a business decision. So you either don't ask the information, or if you ask the information, some personally protected information. If you take social security number in the United States, that once you have that, you can unlock a number of data points on a person. But there are safeguards to using that. You can use it to identify the person, maybe to pull their data. But whatever data you pull, you have to make sure it is not related to their gender or age or any protected category. I can pull how many cards you have out there in the card or within the market, or how many cards you have with my bank, for instance. And I can also pull information on how you are using your card, or how you defaulted or not defaulted in the past. But that's all I can do. I cannot legally use the other protected categories I mentioned. You cannot put it in your model. Now, like I mentioned, there are some data points that do not look like they are encoding for gender or race, but they could actually be doing that. Especially, as you know, in South Africa or United States, there's clustering of neighborhoods by race or by certain categories. So we also make sure to be very careful when we use geographic information. We cannot use zip code, for instance. Zip code is like one of the smallest area units where you can actually encode for different characteristics of the population. We avoid using that as well.
Beautiful. And you've explained it so beautifully, Alex. But I'm also very, I'm a little bit suspicious, how much trust do I have as a client, as a customer, to know that these things are being enforced in the back end? So do you think companies have got systems in place that protect me from the bias, from people even pulling information that they don't need, simply because, their mindset is so wrong? They're going to be tempted, to go and pull information that they don't need to create the bias, that, they want to reinforce. So do you think businesses have got systems in place that stop the colorness of man, from getting into the mix of these things?
Yeah, I mean that's a very valid question. I give you that. What I would say is, one, it varies by industry and it varies by company. I think my understanding is a reasonably respected company will do their best to safeguard customer information, not just for the customer, but there's reputational risk that they also face when such incidents, data breach incidents, be it from someone internal to the company or external, happen. So why don't we take the example of banks, for instance? As I shared earlier, we know there have been really nightmare situations in the past with banks using race, age, and that type of information to make decisions. So since then, Congress in the United States has passed a lot of laws and rules and regulations. So there's actually, within each bank, there's a governance department, there's a controls department. So usually what happens is that personally identifiable information is stored separately from the data that's going to be used for analytics. They are pretty much, there's a wall separating them. And there's also a separate data governance department So there's a lot of really work. And beyond that, mind you, when you are a bank, especially a bigger banks, we have office of the controller of the currency. Those are the regulators. They actually come in and review what you are doing with the data, how you are making decisions, and how sound your practice are. So I think in the banking industry, there's reasonable safeguards. Other industries, though, I cannot say. I think there's some regulation in the healthcare industry as well, but elsewhere, I think there's earnest effort, but it varies. It varies, especially when you are a small business. Really, it's very hard to set up all those separate departments. You may be just the owner yourself, or maybe your family members, less than 5 or 6 people.
Mm, 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 mm. Beautiful and very, very insightful as well. Yeah, I know that I think the banks do their best, even even as they interact with small, medium enterprises. I know that for us, if we're going to be supplying anything to the bank, there's a lot of rigorous checks and balances that our business goes through, and they ensure that we've got all that in place. But also, I'm also thinking there is need to start educating people within the organizations when it comes to the issues of data and data governance, and just how people interact with data. Do you think that is happening a lot within inside the organization?
I think so. Actually, that's a very good question, and again, it hits at the practical aspects of how we enforce those concerns and how we mitigate those concerns you mentioned. In short, yeah, there's actually training that you have to take as an employee. Especially, I know that's the case in banks. We take trainings every year on data governance, privacy, securing the privacy of data, and really following regulation the right way. Again, it helps, but that doesn't mean, as you know, it's 100% foolproof. But I think from what I observe, there's an earnest eagerness to not get into legal hot waters. Because there's a bank that had some malpractices in the past, and they were fined like $2 billion, $4 billion. It's a lot of money. So they
Mm,
also know that if they don't practice the right way or follow the rules, it actually hits them financially as well.
mm, mm,
But
mm.
as you know, ultimately, it really comes down to normal people like you and me, ultimately, to enforce uh, the law and follow the rules and do the right thing.
Mm, mm. So, what is your recommendation? Do you think every person, especially, we're gonna be using the bank a lot because, at the moment they are the ones that heavily use a lot of data. So, do you recommend that? Well, not just even the banks, any other company. Do you recommend that every employee needs some form of data awareness training on how to handle data, how to deal with data? Because for the most part, data is seen as the data scientists are handling that, and so training is sort of localized to that group of people. What would be your advice to businesses? If they are to be businesses that are being seen to be doing the right thing when it comes to the handling of data.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I would say, in general, yes, every employee has to know, but we also want to circumscribe that uh, with kind of with reference to how much data that business is collecting, uh, how much data the employees work with, because ultimately, as you know, even if data scientists analyze the data, in a lot of ways, frontline workers collected that data. So you also want to make sure frontline workers that may actually know the customer intimately, because when the data gets to a data scientist, really from what I've seen, it is just a spreadsheet. So it may not be even easy to connect the person with the data. But of course, you still have to follow the rules and all that. But like frontline workers, workers who have access to the customer data, I think those are, we are actually doing it, especially in the bank space. We do provide training to make sure that the customer's privacy is respected, data is not leaked, and in a lot of ways also to prevent workers from accessing data that they don't need. Usually it's on a need to know basis that employees are given access to data. Even in my uh, uh, space, there are data that I'm not allowed to access, but my team members can access. Why? Because usually they say, "Tell me why you need this data." We need to provide justification. Why? So yeah, I think training will be important, especially being cognizant of where we are headed. With the explosion of artificial intelligence, companies are gathering all sorts of data, and I think it behooves us to start implementing and enforcing trainings and really knowledge as well.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Let's look at how one sets up a data science function. How does that work in a business? Does one go about doing that?
Yes. If you remember earlier, I mentioned how to be a successful data scientist or how you get into data science. Again, here it involves the attitude. I think a business that is not yet sophisticated in the data science space, the first thing they want to do is have the right attitude, the right eagerness that manifests itself in having the right strategy. How's their strategy crafted? Are they coming up with a data driven strategy? Have they made data a key part of how they play in the market? I think that is like a leadership, a strategy decision as a business. Once that's made, you need to put resources behind that. And to set up a data science function, there are at least two critical aspects. The first one is really gathering the data, organizing the data, and creating an enterprise data platform. That way, when you set up your data science function, they have already access to the data they need. After that, and I think in parallel with that, you also want to set up a data science function. Now it varies on the type of business. You can do it in parallel or in a progressive manner. If you want a progressively sophisticated approach, the easier one is secure the data, set up an enterprise data platform, and then start with analytics, just simple analytics. Sometimes people want to go to directly to the more sophisticated models, but mind you, setting up dashboards, setting up business intelligence data, pulling the data, really describing your customer, describing your environment now is the best way to start. Then afterward, you can enter into predictive analytics, uh, as I mentioned in the case of banks, credit cards, predicting who's going to default and all that. And beyond that, you can go into more sophisticated ones, prescriptive analytics. What should we actually do for this customer? And then it goes, now we have ChatGPT and large languages coming up in to the fore. So it's really varies on the type of business and what the strategy is like and where this business likes to go. And also really there are some businesses where it's very hard to play without data. One example is insurance and financial industry. In those spaces, however small you are, without the proper data science function, it's very hard to succeed.
Mm, mm. So, do you recommend that every organization must have a data science department? Because this is quite a new concept that has come in the business space.
I would say in general, yes, but I would preface though that it depends on the type of business. For some businesses, data science could be a less sophisticated department. All they could do for the most part would be analyst type jobs, pulling data, rendering the data, providing insights. But in general, I think that is where we are headed. Even like simply personnel data, HR data itself needs to be stored, and someone needs to pull that information to make good business decisions.
Mm, mm. Let's look at people leadership. In the space of data science, people are the drivers of business, I believe. What are your thoughts around people leadership? Um uh, in your space, and what does it look like? I mean, when we started recording, I was just telling you how I was just so impressed and so inspired by all these testimonials that you've had from the team members that you have worked with. So you seem like you're quite a pro at people management in the data science space. Do you just want to share some thoughts around that?
Sure, sure. So, what separates people management in the data science space is you are going to be leading technically sophisticated employees. In some ways, they could be way smarter than you as well. Because, as I mentioned earlier, people come into data science from different backgrounds. Some have PhDs, some have masters, or different levels of rich background. So I think the key part of data science leadership is one, creating an enabling environment for your team. These are very energetic, very ambitious people. You want to make sure you provide them something to work on. That is very important. That's how you keep them engaged. The other one is really thinking about growth. Each person has their own sense of like where they want to go. Some want to be very sophisticated and continue to deliver more sophisticated products, sophisticated support. Some also want to grow into leaders. So being cognizant of that and providing them the opportunities that help them grow in that area are also important. The other one is helping solve problems where needed. As I mentioned earlier, like one of the key aspects to succeeding in data science is being able to sell your idea, your products, your solutions to your business partners. They call it the line business, right? The business that actually owns the profit and loss for that business. So you need to make sure you make it easier for them to use their data. Usually, I think, especially early in their careers, data scientists may struggle with that. So, as a leader, you would also need to go in and ease their pain if there's any communications that need to be crafted, or you need to just go in and really help just sort out blockages. That's also helpful, and the rest is really like servant leadership, right? Finding ways to serve your people, finding ways to help them grow, and finding ways to get their skills used as well. They love it, like when their skills get used, go into production. That is a huge a psychological reward for them. So I see that those are some of the key areas, especially in the data science space when it comes to people leadership.
Beautiful, beautiful. I wanted us to just dive in a little bit and make it more practical for that manager that is just getting started. You talked about providing an enabling environment. Are you able to just sort of, paint a picture of what that would look like, or maybe also share a personal experience, how you've been able to do that successfully?
Yes. I think one of the keys to providing an enabling environment is, one, make sure on a practical level, data scientists work on different projects. One of the ways to make sure that they stay engaged is make sure the project makes sense to them, make sure the project is a high priority project that's meaningful to them, and also make sure that solution has a life cycle that includes use actual implementation by the business. That's very important because I've heard situations when I inherited a team that team members tell me, "Hey, I've been working on this for 1 year, 2 years. I don't know what we're doing with this. I don't know where this is going." Or also sometimes people start a project and they were well-meaning. I think everyone was well-meaning, but then things on the ground change. Maybe the business kills a program, or the business focus attention or priority elsewhere. Then I think you want to make sure for your team you communicate that properly if they are not aware of it, and you find something else to focus for them to focus on in terms of what they are working on. I think those are like some key practical aspects to think about.
Beautiful, and such great insights, right? Because people also want to feel valued, they want to be affirmed, and they want to also feel that whatever they're doing, they're making a meaningful contribution, to the organization. So,
Yes.
yeah, no, well said, well said. As we start wrapping up this conversation, I would love you to just sort of give us a sense. Where do you see data science evolving in the next 10 years?
That's a very hard question, and as you know, a lot of people have different answers to that. I'll share mine. I think the future is very bright for data science. I think we'll see a progressive evolution of data science. And I think if you even just go back 10 years where we were, data science was just starting 2012, 2010. It was just really starting. And people called, I mean, not that we haven't practice data science, even if we didn't call it data science, like statistics departments existed, analytics departments existed, but the form and the way it's practiced is now changing and it's improving. So my forecast is it will grow a lot. It will grow a lot. A lot of businesses will adapt data science. And I think currently, probably China and the United States are the leaders in data science and artificial intelligence. I think we'll see diffusion of artificial intelligence to other parts of the world. And I think that's a good thing. And I think that will help society as well. Reduce costs, increase efficiencies, provide better services. And I think that's where I see data science evolving. I think it's going to be key to helping societies grow and get value out of data the right way.
Mm, mm. Beautiful, such great insight, Alex. Thank you so much. It's just been absolutely inspiring speaking to you, and just such a wealth of knowledge. You've got so much wealth of knowledge, and thank you for just sharing all the nuggets, all the insights. I have learned a lot. just sitting here and listening to you. Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for making time to come on the podcast.
Thanks so much for inviting me. It was a pleasure to speak with you as well, Sarah. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I hope we stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. For now, it's ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao. Okay, bye.